Hey there, my name's Kiri and I just finished my first year flower farming here in Western Washington, Zone 8A. And in today's video, I want to share 7 of the lessons that I learned as a first year flower farmer. Some of these are kind of like reality check lessons, and some of them are just kind of friendly reminders to myself and also to anybody out there who might be watching this and thinking about being a flower farmer, because there's definitely a lot to learn, and you're gonna make mistakes. I made lots of mistakes and it happens, and that's okay. So the first lesson that I learned is that you should not expect to quit your day job. I have an accounting background, so before I even ordered any seeds or planted anything out, I did a whole bunch of analysis on how many, seeds I could plant, how many stems I could get from each plant, and then how much I could sell those stems for. And I came up with an estimate of potential revenue that I could make. And when I came up with this estimate, I was like, ooh, yes, lucrative. And all the sources online are like, yeah, flower farming, it's the most lucrative kind of farming you can do. I mean, yeah, I think flowers have very high profitability if you have the right outlets for them and the right volume and things like that. I was thinking about doing a whole video on my estimates, but I'll just kind of broadly state this. So in my area that I planted in, which is microscopic, honestly, I estimated I could get like $15,000 worth of product out of there. I didn't keep the best records on this because I didn't realize I wasn't tracking inventory when I was putting it into Square. So I would estimate that I probably actually produced about $7,000 worth of product. It was about half of what I estimated. So, and there's a lot of moving parts in there. It was a horrible year in terms of weather and things like that, and it was my first year, so learning curve on, succession planting and stuff like that. No, you're not gonna make $15,000 from a 20 by 40 foot plot. You're not. And the other thing that goes along with that too is that I tried to bootstrap a lot of different things. So for example, I didn't buy stakes. I used sticks to stake up all my netting, and that was free. But there's still so many other costs that you need to have. It adds up very quickly. So there's a lot of startup costs and infrastructure that you need to buy and build, and that takes money. You're probably not going to be profitable your first year, or maybe even your second. So don't expect to quit your day job, because you gotta have something to fund this. Number 2, marketing is super important, and the key part here is that it takes a lot of time. I'm sure you've seen other people's videos, maybe even mine, where I'm like, alright, let's bang out some of these bouquets here in 15 minutes. Well, add in another 15 minutes for marketing. Especially in your first year, you want to get pictures of everything, and you want to get good pictures, because you're going to use those pictures to market your bouquets in the future. You might have subscriptions and you want to get people to sign up. Man, I wish I took way more pictures of my tulips during spring, because I only have like a couple, and I'm sure everybody's like, oh yeah, I've seen that picture before. Spend time and give yourself time to take pictures of everything. Take good pictures. And the other thing that goes along with that, okay, you got your pictures. Now you need to make a post on Facebook about them. And that, it takes a lot of time. And if you're trying to get into like Instagram Reels and things like that, oh my gosh, does that take time. And to follow trends and things like that, to be kind of on top of the algorithm, oh yeah, most of my time is spent in front of the computer thinking of posts and editing pictures and deleting crappy pictures. Yeah, give yourself lots of time for marketing, because you will thank yourself later. Number 3, which is kind of along with marketing, but just a reminder, if you're kind of kicking yourself like, oh, I wish my Instagram would grow faster, or I wish I had more page likes on my Facebook, followers does not equal sales. So I think I have like 180 followers on Instagram. I'm not mad about it, because first of all, Instagram is probably not where you're going to have your locals, because Instagram tends to be a little bit more global in a sense. You're probably going to get other flower farmers following you on Instagram. That's not really your target market unless you're trying to sell bulbs or something like that. But if you're trying to sell your bouquets locally, Instagram's not really going to matter for you that much. So if you don't have a bunch of followers, don't fret about it. What matters is if you are targeting those people that actually want to buy your flowers. So I've had a lot more success on Facebook. I have a decent amount of followers on there. Really in the background there's a lot that people don't see, and getting your email list a little bit more robust is probably going to be a little bit more impactful than having 10,000 global Instagram followers. So don't be discouraged if you feel like your page isn't growing a bunch, because this is a local business and social media is not that local. And I will do a video talking about how much money I made this year, but it's comparable with other flower farmers who started out who have a lot more followers than I do. So there's not a huge correlation between the amount of followers that you have and how much money you're going to make. Number 4, which I kick myself all the time about, is make sure that you're keeping good records. And that applies for just about everything in your business. So that's not only what seeds you ordered, but that's also how many plants that you actually planted out, how many stems you harvested from a plant, how much time it takes you to harvest in a day, how much time you're spending outside planting or weeding or whatever. That kind of stuff that helps you figure out how much of a return you're getting on your time and seed investment in those plants. But you also want to keep track of how many bouquets you produced in a week or a day, how many you actually sold, where you sold them, and then you also should keep track of things that are really important for your accounting software and your taxes. So track your receipts, track your mileage, track all the things, because that can be really, really helpful. So this next year I'll be using this planner to keep me on track. It's pretty cool. I got this at HomeGoods, so sorry I don't have like a Amazon affiliate link or something for this. But it's kind of cool because it has like a lot of space for each day, and then notes and to-dos and things like that. So this will be really great for tracking, what I actually did, how much time I spent, things like that, what I planted out, that kind of thing. Find a system that works for you to track things. Something that kind of goes along with figuring out when you should plant things and all that is that you should really plant things based on the temperature, not by your dates. So I learned this the hard way this year. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, I mentioned that it was a really rough year because we had an insanely wet spring, and it delayed dahlias and other tender annuals by like 4 weeks this year, and that was common across a lot of Western Washington. All of those local growers mentioned that as well. I was like, meh, I don't care that it's cold and rainy. I'm going to plant things on this date that I planned it. You think that planting things earlier or on this schedule is going to be better because it's like, oh, it'll give it more time to grow, right? But no, sometimes you can actually plant things too early or when it's too cold, and that actually will set the plant back rather than if you just planted it at its desirable temperature that it likes, which you can see on the seed packet. Don't stick to a regimented schedule on, okay, I need to plant this here and this now. Really look at what weather patterns you have and whether it makes sense to actually plant those. My 6th lesson is to have a plan, but really the kicker here is to not be afraid to pivot. So I am very much a planner. I like to have everything planned out. I don't like to deviate a whole bunch from the plan because it stresses me out. But there's so much that is going to be out of your control with farming. I've heard this saying from other flower farmers, which I think it's so cute, but it's like Mother Nature is the CEO, not you. It is so true. Like, you have to listen to what Mother Nature has in store for you and pivot. Because, you may think, okay, I'm going to have sunflowers at this time, but you might not because the weather is terrible. Or, I spent a bunch of effort and time getting the beds ready in the back here, and then I found out through the growing season that it really just was too shady there. So I need to move it over to the side yard here. So if I was just being rigid and sticking to, okay, it's going to be back here, that's going to set me back because that's really delaying all of my plants because they're not getting enough sun, so it's delaying the bloom time. And so pivoting and having flexibility with these things is what's going to help you get better and produce more flowers. And my last lesson learned here is to not be afraid to experiment. So if you can, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room to try out different things, see what works for you in your growing zone and in your microclimate, because something that might work for me might not work for you where you're at. And it really is a hands-on learning experience being a flower farmer, because everybody's growing space is so different. You know, kind of along with this planning idea too, you know, I had some ideas about the color combos and things that I wanted to do, and when it came time to actually harvest flowers, I didn't like the color combos, and so I tried different things like the chocolate and wine. I know I mention that all the time, but that was just a really fun discovery. And, you know, try different things, experiment, you know, set off a little bit of seed to try a different sowing method to see if that works for you. Because you never know when you're going to make a discovery that's going to make a big impact in your flower farming journey. You know, also try different selling avenues, you know, see if a market works for you. Unfortunately for me, markets aren't the best in my area, so I won't be doing that. But now I know because I tried it, right? So you'll never know if you don't try. And certain things don't have too much of a cost, so, you know, if you're willing to swing it, give it a try. Really, you need to be very flexible, and you need to have grit to be successful as a flower farmer. Things are not going to go as planned, and you need to just roll with the punches, keep at it, and keep trying, because persistence is key, and having flexibility and not getting sad when things don't work out the way that you expect is really what is going to help you be successful. So I hope you found this information fun and helpful, and if you have any lessons that you learned in your first year, feel free to leave them as a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.